So that's where I think the course would find its relevance for you as law students, right? So if you look at the public administration part, right? Public administration part. Again, we have taken some theories which would prepare the background for you to understand the meaning of the public administration, the way discipline has incorporated some new areas to study, and the way the discipline has evolved, right? In terms of looking at the structures of administration as well as the way administration functions. So, whenever we are referring to the administration, we mean that administration doesn't mean simply the structures of government. They also mean all those external and internal factors which shape the functioning of the government, right? Which shape the functioning of the government and which might have its bearing the way government shapes and reshapes its administrative structures for the purpose of achieving certain objectives, right? So that is where as far as the whole idea of administration is concerned, right? So you will find, and this is what I will also bring in, for discussion when we would come to this particular unit. That the whole idea of administration, or the whole purpose of administration, is to achieve success in terms of execution of the policies of the government. And that's where the relationship is, and that is where the connection is. Meaning that, as far as the policies are concerned, right? Policies, they indicate the overall objectives and purposes for which the government acts, for which the government works, right? So, welfare, or better quality of life, or better education system, or an environment where security prevails. That is where security policy, right? But as far as the success of these policies are concerned, as far as the execution of these policies are concerned, right? So that is where administration plays an important role. So that's where the connection is, and we will explore more, and we will discuss more when we come to this unit, public administration, right? So again, likewise, we will try to understand the meaning of public administration, some of the theoretical models, which would include the classical model of Henry Fayol, Gulick and Urwig, then F.W. Taylor's scientific management theory, then some human relations approach of Eldon Mayo, then bureaucratic theory, of course, by Max Weber, and behavioral theory by Simon, right? I'm not sure if you are familiar with any of these names. Are you familiar with any of these names? आप पहले पहले कभी इनमें से किसी
Yes, sir.
हाँ सुना है हाँ? Okay, not a problem.
Max Weber.
Max Weber, yes, Max Weber, definitely yes. And in fact, we had discussed Max Weber in terms of his ideas on state, and especially when we were, doing part of the uh, uh, part of the uh, political obligation course, right? So even I think I had referred to Max Weber and the way he would look at the state, and how Max Weber understood that it's eventually the legitimation of the monopoly of use of force that makes the state as a distinct entity, a political entity from other entities, right? But the idea is not to look at the views on state and politics, but we would rather be focused in terms of understanding the bureaucratic theory by Max Weber, right? So again, as you would see that different theoretical approaches, they look at different aspects, and they try to uh, emphasize upon the correlationship between the government structures and the way government structures. They endeavor to achieve success in certain areas, uh, and whether there are motives and whether there are objectives which are unknown, and whether intentions and objectives which are declared, and there is a gap, all these things possibly can be understood with respect to our discussions on public policy and administration both, right? But please try to understand, as far as public administration is concerned, the evolution of the discipline owes a lot to the developments which happened in private sector, and especially in the private enterprises in United States of America. So what actually would happen that many of the companies and the people who would try to look at the behavior of the workers and managers, right? So their objective would be that how to maximize the production, right? And how it can be achieved at the minimum possible cost. Whether there are motivational issues which affects the production process in the factories, right? So all these things, they helped growth of the discipline. So many a times you would see that first development happens in the areas of the industrial relations, and therein from there the government would borrow those theories and would try to implement, or try to implement and would try to uh, incorporate that in its overall approach, in its overall uh, uh, administrative procedures and administrative aspects, right? So this is something which is very much interesting, and this is something we would look at, right? Then we would come again, and as I have referred to in the case of public policy on the issues uh, pertaining to public administration in India, right? Now, just a second, give me.
Sir,
Was that?
sir, I have a question.
बताइए.
Sir, can public administration be said a stage of public policy?
No, it's not a stage. It's not a stage, right? See, what happens that administrative structures, they exist in terms of their role in the whole policy making, implementation, and assessment process, right? But as far as the structures of administration are concerned, right? So they have their existence, which cannot be related to, or which cannot be put as a stage in the whole policy, right? Now, let me take an example and help to understand this, right? Say, for instance, the government declares a policy that as far as the administrative machinery in India is concerned, administrative machinery in India needs to be more people oriented rather than being governed by the colonial mindset. And this is the objective which the government, adopts, and it wants to overhaul the whole administrative structure, right? So that is where, under this particular policy, the government may decide to bring about desired changes in the administrative structures of the government. So as far as the policy is concerned, policy aims to achieve more people-friendly administration, right? Policy aims to achieve an administration which would be people-oriented, which would actually serve the people, right? Not become a kind of what many have tried to understand, and the term in fact was used in the development and growth of discipline, that my bap sarkar, right? So that's where we can understand the relationship between policy and administration both, right? So what you see, administration is not a stage in the policy, right? But administration certainly works under the larger policy approaches of the government. Number one. Number two, administration becomes an instrument or tool in the overall policy of the government, meaning that administration exists, as I told you, to help government in formulation of the policy in its execution, and even when an assessment may be required, right? As an assessment of a particular policy may be required. And number three, as far as administration is concerned, the existence of the administration may be dependent upon the larger policy objectives of the government, right? But at the same time, I must also add that administration may bring about policy changes, meaning that, as far as the third point is concerned, in this third point, there is a kind of, a two-way relationship between administration and policy. But administration is not a stage in a policy per se. Okay, so things would be more clear when we understand them separately, and when we try to correlate them, right? When you try to correlate them, and when meaning is more clear, then I think this relationship too would be more clear.